I had tears coming down my face. I was like, wow, this is intense. Breathwork has got me. I just broke. That was the point where my life literally changed.
Welcome back to a Road Less Doubtful podcast. Today's guest is Brendan, and he's from the Healing Breath.
We are meant to fail. We're meant to fall down. We're meant to make mistakes. And I call them lessons. I don't call them mistakes.
Who are we to have something to say? We don't have anything maybe extra to offer. Like, we don't have a voice, but we know we do. Like, we actually inherently know it.
I have cried more in an hour of breathing with strangers than what I have of 15 years of relationships with my wife.
All right, guys, welcome back to a Road Less Doubtful podcast. I'm super excited today. I've literally just gotten back home from Sydney, and I haven't had a lot of energy in the tank, but as soon as I sat down to even think about having this conversation with this guest, I've gotten so much energy just from the thought of it. Today's guest is Brendan, and he's from the Healing Breath. So welcome, Brendan. How are you?
Hey, I am fantastic. Thank you.
This conversation, I believe, is going to have a lot more human design in it because I've unpacked his chart and I've been sitting on it for a really long time. So those of you who've been waiting for me to talk a little bit more into human design, you might hear a bit more about that. But it's going to go wherever it's going to go today because I met Brendan, I would say really synchronistically, because I was looking to find somewhere to do breath work locally because my friend Claire is in Melbourne and she brought that into my awareness, and I was like, I want somewhere to do breath work. And I went into our local coffee shop, Operation Underground, and the beautiful Joy was in there that morning, and I had literally just said to a friend I want to do breath work, and she had just come back from one of your morning breath works, and so it was. I started coming to you for breathwork.
And here we are.
So can you tell everybody just a little bit about what you do now, so your breathwork and where you're at, and then I think we will then jump back into previous things.
Yeah, no worries. So as you said, my name is Brendan and I'm the founder of the Healing Breath. And so what I am is a breathwork facilitator, and also sort of a mentor, coach in that sort of space as well. But the breathwork's really the main sort of tool in what I do, because that allows people to get out of here, come into here, and then work wonders with their life. And what breathing is apart from what we're doing now, just breathing, it's consciously controlling our breath. So, using our breath in a certain way, holding our breath for certain amounts of time, and just using our breath consciously to elicit different states. So whether that's, flow states, creative, going deep within to unlock and move through past traumas and hurts and pains and things like that, or to use it as manifestation for dropping in and calling in something that for the future. So it's really about holding those sorts of spaces, whether it's in a group scene, privately, one-on-one, online, in person. But also with that element of mentorship and coaching, and it's not just having a breath session. I mean, you can certainly just do that. But then there's other layers where we add in that sort of support or guidance through your life and through your journeys.
What made you start getting into breath work? We'll start there.
I heard about Wim Hof, the Iceman.
That's exactly where I started.
And I think for a lot of people in the West, that's where they start. I can't even remember how. It might have been a YouTube video or something like that. But I watched him and I was just amazed by his ability and his energy. And I was like, okay, let's look into this. And I started doing his technique, breathing and holding breath and cold showers and stuff like that. And I was just like, wow, I was having psychedelic experiences just from his stuff, like holding my breath for an extended period of time, inducing like sort of hyperventilation, and just having these experiences from my breath. And I was like, man, this is insane. So I started doing it as a practice for a little bit, and then, life takes over and things like that. So breathwork, as it was then, just took a back seat. Like I'd forgotten about it. It wasn't at the forefront of my mind. And this was probably, 6 years ago. And it was probably another 4 years had passed until I came back into it again, but as more of a internal process, going within and working through stuff. And I'd done a bit online, and it was doing things. I was feeling things and not reliving things, but addressing things and releasing things. But it wasn't until I went to a retreat, a family's retreat, and I did my first in-person breathwork. Now, this was me being guided, and it was literally 5 minutes. 5 minutes on top of a hill. My son was with me, and I just broke. I had tears coming down my face. I was like, wow, this is intense. And just from 5 minutes. So then at that point, I was just like, yep, breathwork has got me. It has got me. And from there, the facilitators of the families retreat, they also do men's retreats. And I was like, bro, is there a spot left on your men's retreat? I want to come. I need to come. And it was like a week or two later. And he's like, we've got one left, one spot. I'm like, dumb, bro, it's me. I'm in. I am in. So then 2 weeks later, I had an experience. I had an awakening, a life-changing experience. 3 days of breathwork, deep breathwork sessions, of being raw and honest with a bunch of other men. There was things I was, speaking of that I'd probably never talked to my wife about because just fear of, sounding like a goose, or, I'm a man, I'm tough, I don't have to deal with it. And I don't want to burden you with it either. So 3 days of deep work, and that was the point where my life literally changed. And it was that 3 days, that retreat, and I guess the lead up as well, that set the scene to now bring me here. It was where I decided I want to bring this medicine to more people, with my spin, my uniqueness, my history, and my story behind it. Because really, it's just breathing. Whether it's me telling you how to breathe or somebody else how to breathe, it's just breathing. But it's the energy, the frequency, the different methods and ways of how I do things that separates me from how others do things and how they differ from me. And that is the beautiful thing about it.
There's so much I want to respond to with that, because we've had a few, and not huge conversations, but just small amounts of conversation. And I know one of the things that I remember you saying to me, which was actually, I believe, the catalyst for why I'm sitting here doing a podcast, and possibly while you're sitting here doing a podcast as well. But we were both like, who are we to have something to say? We had these very similar internal narratives going on that we don't have anything maybe extra to offer. Like, we don't have a voice, but we know we do. Like, we actually inherently know it. But that little thing kept coming back to be like, no, it's not special, almost, if that makes sense. But I'm going to, there's so many bits of human design right now, plus also just even what you said with Wim Hof. So what I'm going to say is, like, you and I, so let's start with the basics. You're a manifestor for human design. So what, and you know parts of this anyway. You're a 2-4, so I'm also a 2-4. So we have that like hermit energy where we want to go within and like just kind of sort our shit out a little bit and just retreat from the world. And then this like, I need to get out and interact with others. But sometimes we really struggle to interact with others. I know I do, because when I wasn't as willing to show up as me, we weren't bringing in the right people, right? So then when we go to show up in the world, the people who are around us, we're like, I don't know if I really like people. I don't know. Does that resonate with you at all?
Oh, yeah.
So then when
gotta
we
be the right
start to
people.
like let some of that go, then these cool people come in, which I feel like is what I found with you in breathwork, because I was really similar. I started Wim Hof and I was like, cool. But when I got to the space that you did where you were like hyperventilating, I was going, oh shit, I'm going to pass out, because that feeling, that pins and needles, that was me passing out when I had my jaw break. So I was like, I can't push past this. I was freaking out. I kind of wanted to do it because I saw him do his breath holds and then do all these push-ups. And I was like, right, I want that strength. It was for such a different reason. That's where it started. But I realized that my energy is, I don't like to slow down, because for the longest time, I have to do things to be worthy. I have to achieve things to be worthy. The narrative is earn money, be wealthy, just achieve. And so when I stopped, I just didn't know what that was supposed to feel like. So I didn't feel worthy to slow down and be a little bit more feminine. And so the same as you, from the masculine side of, I don't want to burden my wife. For me, it was, I don't really want to cry and break, because and especially in the space that I was in, I don't have anyone to pick me up, and I didn't know how to kind of fix that. But once I started dropping that, and really with your help, which we will go back to, but I think it was almost like it was either the first or second breath work. I really wasn't going to come, because I thought that's a waste of 1 hour. That 1 hour, I could do so many other things. And I'm sure a lot of people say the same thing. They're like, it's that internal thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just breathing. Like, I'm not going to be able to shut my mind off. And one of the first things you did was sort of say, it doesn't matter if your mind is busy. Just let it, just don't give it anything. Just lay there. But for me, I'm such a person for music. And so what you brought was you, and as a manifestor, you're going to either provoke people and repel them. It's like a love-hate. Or you're just going to like draw them in. And I guess for me, you just drew me in. I'm like, yeah, I feel comfortable instantly. The music, it's like that's my music. And you played a few specific songs that had been really important to me in like, again, I'll use synchronicities. Like they had been special moments just recently. So it was like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And then just the way you would put your hand on my shoulder and say the exact thing I was thinking in the moment, I was like, how the hell is he doing that? And so I knew then it was like an energy, right space, right person. And that first time I was like, not a lot happened. But what did happen is that 4 in me from my profile came out, and I was like, I'm in a really safe space. I'm going to be able to cry. I'm going to be able to let go. And I had done a lot of that with you. And all of these people were just sitting around talking at the end. The tarot cards were amazing, because I love the tarot cards. And I was like, yeah, this is perfect. And so then I made the effort to come back a lot. And I missed it so much because you went away and you had all of your holiday. But what the next thing I wanted to say with like aligning and doing what you think you should have been doing and like listening to yourself, you sort of alluded to that, is you have, and so do I, this channel 5710, and it is an intuitive channel, and we can get caught up in the noise very much so. And so when a lot of people talk about intuition, it is, or we'll talk about a gut response, and they get it. It's not that they don't get it, but for us it's almost deeper. It's like a deep inner knowing that when something like just hits you, it's almost like a chill. It's like I don't know, might feel different for you. So I'm just going to leave it here and you can respond to this in a second. But it's like, it is an internal compass, and it just defies any logic or reason. And what I've put here is it's like, they're just random. So they're random. And so when we say synchronicities, it just starts lining up when you can hear it more. And what you've done by giving yourself breath work, and me giving myself that space, we're going to sit at the beach now, is we've cleared that noise and we can start to hear that better.
Yeah.
So do those things land? The people, the intuition?
Definitely. Like the right people will gravitate, and the biggest thing for me to try and get around is, being that self-critic, is knowing that the right people will come, the wrong people will come, but they won't stick around. The right people will.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it was this weird, like, I take it to heart. People would come and you'd see them once and that would be it. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, cool. And then I'd be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said this. Maybe I should have played that song, blah, blah, blah. And all the head noise. And then, over time, obviously, you had the right people hang around, the right people come. And that's when the energies match. Like I said earlier, like, how I do things and my energy is completely different to somebody else. Somebody that comes and breathes with me might love what I provide and how I hold a session in a space, but then go to somebody else and they don't, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that now.
Perfect. You should be, because you're supposed to, like, your life's work. So you have the right angle cross of tension. That is like your overarching life's purpose. So there's a few different things, but it's like this big overarching one. And it's your gift is to push people's buttons.
Yeah, I push people's buttons. Oh, man, I certainly do, especially over the last few years.
Exactly right. But as your life gotten better, the more you've sort of stepped into that without worrying.
Yeah.
And so, but when you're doing it, so like you've pushed my buttons in there, but not in a terrible sense for me. Sometimes you might, but you have, like, by some of the things you've said or some of the music, like, that's still the same thing. You're still provoking me in a certain way. You're provoking those tears to come out. And with that, you're bringing up things inside of me so that I can go away and learn my lesson and feel it and change it. And that is literally your life's, that's like your life's work. And so when I wrote that down, I was like, yeah, rightio, that's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
But then I would look at, like, your childhood wound or your childhood, what your inner child needs. And you wanted to rebel. Would that sound about right? Like, you never felt you fit in?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah?
1,000,000%.
So with that, when that happened, what did you try and do as a child? How would you try and, did you try and fit in, or did you keep trying to push that narrative, that envelope? And if you didn't feel comfortable, how did that come out in you?
So I do remember periods in school, like, I'd try and fit in, especially high school. You try and wear the skate shoes and the brands and all that sort of stuff, and wearing your pants a bit low off the hips and all that sort of stuff, like the kids did back then. But even younger, like, I knew younger that I was a rebel. Like, I didn't like, I know we've got to have rules, right?
Yeah, man.
But rules, I'm not a fan of rules.
Yeah.
I like them to be flexible and push boundaries and stuff like that. Obviously we got to have norms and acceptable ways of doing things. But beyond that, get rid of the rules. And being in school, man, so many rules. Put your hand up if you want to talk. Put your hand up if you want to go to the toilet. Can only go to the toilet at this time. Can only eat at this time. Can only play at this time. Stop, be quiet, you're too noisy. Don't ask too many questions. And I think from day one, I just didn't want to be there.
At any point, did you lose that?
Did I lose the
rebel? Did you conform a bit more? No?
No, I'd always have it in the background. Like, sometimes I'd toe the line and behave. But then, like, I was always getting up to something, and nothing bad, but just playing up, like, as kids do. Like, I'd go and squirt the bubblers and stuff. And I remember once I was in year 7 science, and I got the thermometer and I put it over the Bunsen burner directly. And it exploded. And the teacher went ballistic, and I got detention. And it was just trying things, like experimenting and pushing boundaries. And I've always had that rebel inside, and even now it's there. Like, I am not normal by any stretch of the word.
But by whose parameters,
Yeah, that's right. If you look at conforming to society, no, I am not. Like, I do so many. I am not mainstream at all. Like, I eat food, organic food, grass-fed food, and I put coconut oil on my skin. I have cold showers and saunas and breathe.
Okay,
I parent my kids differently.
Let's go back and what were you doing before breathwork?
When starting my journey of self-discovery, I felt alone and lost. That's why I'm so incredibly dedicated to this podcast and passionate about building you a place of community to help you remember exactly who you were before life got in the way. So with that said, word of mouth is one way we can grow this community. So please share this with your friends and family. And so you don't miss an episode, I'd love for you to tap the subscribe button. Now, let's get back to the episode.
So as in your adult life, let's do a little Brendan journey from adult Brendan out of school to just prior to breathwork. What happened?
Right.
How did that happen?
Well, quickly, I left school in year 8. I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I said to Mum, I said, if you can keep dropping me off, I'll just keep walking out the door. So I left in year 8. A couple of years later, I did go back to TAFE and did my year 10. And from there, like I worked in Big W for a few years, went overseas and worked in a kids' summer camp in America for 3 months, ski resort in Canada for 6 months, met my wife over there, and then we came back home, we'll come back to here, had a couple of jobs as a postie with the council on the garbage trucks, Woolworths, at the pub. So I've had a bit of a journeyman sort of experience with work. And then I was March 2012, I started with the Australia Federal Police. I was there for 6 years, and that was...
a rebel who goes to enforce the rules.
Yeah, right. But rules that I agree with. Don't hurt people, don't steal from people, those sorts of normal rules. And I really I wanted to help the community. I wanted to serve the community, protect them, and keep them safe, from the bad guys. But I was there for 6 years, and it was probably 5.5 years too long. I found out very quickly, or realized very quickly, that in training that this image that the public has of police is so far skewed. Like it's this professional organization, right? But really, when you're in there, it's far from it. Like there is so much. I even made a joke to one of the instructors. I'm like, dude, our uniform should be grey, not blue. Like there's so many grey areas here. Like nothing's clear cut. And then when I actually got out into the real world with it and started working, it was just like, no, don't do your job. Don't look over here. Don't do that. Don't push these buttons. Just, be seen, not heard.
Yeah. All of the things you don't agree with. None of the things that help society or help people.
That's right.
And no common sense.
No. And I'm just like, but I want to help. This is my job, right? To help the community deal with, crimes and things like that. And no. Don't ask too many questions because, you might uncover something that we don't want to come out. You know what I mean? Yeah, you've seen Hollywood movies.
They're all real because I watch all of the romantic comedies and, what? Oh, dear. No,
so the police.
I get it. But we can roll with this because you also have a channel of transients. So another fully highlighted channel. And so that's like crisis to change. Doesn't mean you've had to have any real crisis, but I'm sure as you were going through some of these things, it was like, maybe where am I headed? Or like, why am I doing this? Or there's more, but I'm not really sure like what it is. But the whole point of that channel was for you to do all of those things so that they led you all to exactly where you are, which I know you could say to a lot of people and it would probably fit, right? Because most of the time, this is how life works. You do all of these ups and downs, like we talked about before the podcast, and then you just start to land exactly where you're supposed to. But that is like such a big thing for you in your life. It's all of your parts literally stick together. And while we're on the channels, you also have the 45-21. So you have a lot of like really dominant, strong channels. And it's literally like the 21 is the hunter or the hunter. I don't know why I said hunter. And the 45 is the gatherer. And I was like, oh my God, there were so many things because so it's like a natural urge to lead and to control resources in a practical and effective way. So like a tribal leader. And I was like, oh, well, it's interesting where the conversations with Brendan have gone in the past, and like owning land and, you know, barter systems, and then even with your new retreat, right? Like it's literally like lion energy, that hunter-gatherer mentality. I know you've been dabbling in being a bit of a carnivore, but I don't know if you're still down that track. Are you still on that? Yeah.
98%.
Okay.
But we'll be 100% soon.
Fair enough. And then I was playing with like archetypes for my own branding and stuff that I'm trying to play with in human design. And only just the other day, I sent you when I saw all of your retreat stuff, which we're about to talk about because I'm so excited for you. And you've like used the big lion, you know, like awaken the lion within. And for a manifestor for my archetypes, it was a lion, and I was like, yep, I'm sending this to Brendan because it's all of the things. And then when I played with your chart and saw the hunter-gatherer, and I saw that you're supposed to provoke people and you're supposed to be a tribal leader, I was like, wow, I can't wait to see where all of this goes. It's incredible.
So interesting, hey?
It's so cool. So cool. So tell us a little bit more about this retreat, because what I love is there is a lot of focus for females and using their emotions. And I see a lot of sides of this, because where I sit at the moment, for me personally, is like I've had to be, as I just alluded to, I've not had to be, I chose to be. It's no one else's responsibility. I chose to sort of stay in this strength mode because I've got to take care of the kids, because this is where I'm at the moment, and I have to earn money and I have to do the thing. So it's really hard to then drop back into softening. But I want to. And so with the breath work, and there is a lot of talk around that and bringing that more feminine energy back and you know, getting this balance of what is it really to be a man. And that hunter-gatherer nature, I think, is fantastic, because I think when you are around somebody who has that purpose and that drive and that level of awareness for themselves, it's a lot easier as a woman to really relax down. And that is a fundamental thing that I've started to learn. I thought, why couldn't I do that before? What was I doing wrong? But it takes two all of the time. And I was like, there wasn't that safety for me. That wasn't there, unfortunately. We couldn't get to that. That's okay. But what you're doing to allow men to start to find that now in this way and not make it seem too fluffy and really go and look in, I think is amazing. So I'd like you just to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, so definitely with men, obviously we've had this stereotype that men are meant to be emotionally strong or bland. There's no emotion. We're not meant to cry. As young boys, we're told, shush, boys don't cry, toughen up. And you can see where a lot of issues with masculinity these days have come from. And it's not about, being touchy-feely all the time, because, we are different to women. Men and women are completely different. That's obvious, right? But we complement each other. And while I'm a man, there's still parts of me that are feminine. And just like you're a woman, there's parts of you that are masculine. There's still that polarity, within each of us. And like the ideal, again, that word normal is like, as a man, it's the split's generally 80-20. So you're 80% masculine, 20% feminine. And as the woman, you're 80% feminine, 20% masculine. So when we come to spaces like this with men, this brings in the feminine aspect and also allows the feminine within the men to open up, because we're coming into here, a place and a space that probably a lot of men have never really been to, you know, because we've had that conditioning to not feel. And then when we do feel something, it's generally explosive, it's rage, you know, we're smashing the booze, we're smashing the drugs, we're doing all these things to stop ourselves from actually feeling. So what breathwork does, and specifically, you know, the retreat that's for men, it's a space for them to step into the masculinity, to allow the feminine within them to open up, which then in turn strengthens their masculine. Because now they've unlocked, you know, I guess they've unlocked sort of a problem. They've now unlocked something from the past, and the masculine's going to kick in and goes, well, now we've got to fix it. So we're allowing men to feel. And, you know, I've been in spaces myself as a participant where I've bawled my eyes out. I have cried more in an hour of breathing with strangers than what I have of 15 years of relationships with my wife. Like, just having that environment, that support, and, you know, that safe space to be able to actually put down the barriers, put down the walls, and just feel. You know, I've roared, I've screamed, I've broken my voice from screaming, I've laughed, I've cried, I've smashed the floor. But the stuff that I have moved through, the realizations that I've had, has been phenomenal. Like, if I hadn't have felt those feels and moved through past hurts and traumas and all that sort of stuff, I would not be here. You know, I'd still be an instant snapper. I'd be triggered by my kids or something, and I'd just snap straight away. But now, you know, with this specific example, I've got the capacity and the awareness and the space to go, okay, they're hitting a button of mine. I'm not going to react. You know, I've got that space to take a breath and go, right, how are we going to respond? And I've now, you know, got this new skill set to deal with stuff like that. And that translates.
I think there's a lot of things that come into that as well, because it's not just the emotions. Like, sometimes when you say emotions to a man, they'll relate it to the emotions that they might have gotten from their woman, or, like, you know, limited to emotional. But it's almost less, and correct me if I'm wrong, it is about releasing those emotions. But you alluded to it before as well. When you're in schools or whatever, and the way society is as such, you're not allowed to have your rage and get those things out as much. So, you know, like, really get it out on the football field, or have a punch up and get it over and done with. So you're not allowed to express as a man like would generally express. But when it comes back to, so you're allowing that in your retreats, you know, like you just said, you're roaring, you're yelling, you're hitting the pillows. It's a safe space. You're not hurting anyone, but you're getting that, like, that manly energy out. I don't know what you call it, but I'm calling it manly energy. But when it, like, for the emotion stuff, I was listening to Joe Dispenza, and it was really cool because the way he put it, and I was thinking it for me because I've had this, like, negative connotation to the word emotions, because I've been told so much, like, or so often, that you're so emotional, but it's not in a positive way. And I'm like, I'm starting to relearn that, hold on, like, it's when I'm connected to things the most that I will cry. It's not necessarily because I'm unhappy, but it's because I'm dropping into my heart. So what you're creating is this, like, dropping into your heart, because you're removing everything else. So it's not necessarily emotion from, like, crying. It's you're expanding the heart. So when you're breathing more, you're allowing them to be in that, like, heart space. It's actually, like, bringing on oxytocin. And when I was listening to Joe Dispenza, it was super cool because he was like, now I'm going to probably get the name of the stuff wrong, and you might know what it is. But when you can do that, when you can get into that flow state with your heart, and whether this is going to be through, like, a medicine journey or what you're doing or whatever it is, and you start to learn that feeling, it's like 200% of like blood flow, like oxytocin goes into your heart and your lungs. And so you're literally filling yourself up with love energy. When you have that love energy, it's actually impossible to feel those negative energy, like those negative thoughts.
Right, yeah.
So like when you're saying, I can't be mad at my kids or I don't react, you actually can't, because your heart has expanded so much, so you're less reactive. Because it's like triggering nitric oxide, and then it triggers ethereal something. And that's like literally what happens. This is the chemical response. And I was like, oh my freaking God, I love that. I love it because it takes that like emotional, you're a sook out of it, or you're wimpy, or you're too feminine, or like whatever other people have. And they're like, no, I'm just dropping back into my heart. I'm expanding my chest. So then for a man, it's like, I'm standing out, like my chest is broadening. I'm bigger. I'm like, rah, like that's the
step into that
roar.
power.
They're like, rah, you know? And I was like, yeah, that feels really good. You know?
Yeah. And that's it. Like once we, you know, you said about emotions. Emotions, when people say emotions, it's like, oh, crying and hissy fits and things like that. But emotion is just energy in motion.
Correct.
So it's energy in our body that is moving, and it elicits certain responses in our body. Yeah, so when we can work on that, we can feel it, no matter what it is. Because I'm sure you probably know in your own life and in the past especially, is, we have an experience, whether it's good or bad. Somebody hurts us, says the wrong thing or something, or, we might even have a car accident. But we don't deal with what's happened. We might go, oh, bugger, I've just had a car accident, oh, blah, 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 blah. But you don't process it. You have an argument with somebody and you go off in a huff and then you come back. You haven't processed it. You haven't gone through, you haven't allowed your body to feel what it needs to feel. Because, it's only our head that thinks. It's our body that feels. And it's this that gets in the way of this. Yeah, we try and put meaning and logic to why our bodies have these feelings. But when we're in the space where we can feel it, we can move through it. And it's not about big releases either, like beating your chest or roaring or screaming, crying your eyes out till you can't. Even just the fact of just breathing and going, right, I can feel, something from last week and that my partner said to me. And you start to get that little bit of, you might get a lump in your throat, or you get a bit of feeling in your heart. Just breathing into that and just acknowledging that feeling in your body that's come up. That's releasing, because you're giving that feeling the space it needs, rather than compressing it and pushing it back down to have more stuff go on top. So the retreat is, it's four nights of space for the men to just be men. And we've got the feely stuff where we're going to breathe, and you're probably going to have some emotions and feelings. But it's regulating the nervous system. It's not the emotions, it's not the sadness. It's just regulating our nervous system, bringing it back to a balanced center. But it's 3 days where these men can really go within and find themselves. Yeah, because I know for me personally, I was lost. I had no idea who I was, the father. I had these ideas of, I want to be this man, this father. But really, I had no idea. I had no positive male role models growing up. I had no real direction, no sense of purpose until that in-person breathwork session on the hill that led to me participating in a men's retreat. So giving these men the opportunity to come in to see what's inside, to whether they just have the rages where they just want to beat their chest and just, let go of 20, 30, 40 years of stuff, just to get it out. Or if they want to mourn a loved one that's passed, or if they just want to laugh at themselves for being a dickhead. That space there. Plus, we also have the physical stuff, so we can be men and we can move our body, we can push weight, We can get physical and wrestle with each other, because that's how men release as well. We can fight. If we need to fight, we fight. But ideally, we don't want to fight. And no one wants to fight, really. That's not what humans do. But as men, we need that healthy competition. So that's why we play football. We do boxing, karate, martial arts, all that sort of stuff, because it's a physical release. Hitting into somebody where you're not going to get carted off to jail. You get out a lot of frustration. And I know when I was playing football, like, I'd love to get hit. I'd just pick the biggest person on the field and I'd run at him, and I'd literally bounce back up, and I'm like, whoa, let's go again. Because, I've just had this release of whatever it was. I've just allowed myself to get hit and hit, and it felt good. So when we're in this space where we can feel all those things, we can release a lot of stuff. We can actually feel fucking whole once again. And for a lot of men in particular, they may not have ever felt that way, or have not felt that way for a long time.
Hey guys, if this episode resonated with you, please take a screenshot and share it to your Instagram stories and tag myself at A Road Less Doubtful. And if you're ready to lean into the parts of you that have been hidden away and start your road to less doubt and have way more fun, I'd love for you to join our community of like-minded women who build each other up inside our free Facebook group. Tap the link in the show notes below, and I can't wait to see you on the inside and travel this journey together. I think also it's hard to articulate sometimes what it is. You don't know what it is.
It is.
And
it's
not
very
only,
hard to articulate.
Not only that, I believe, and again, it's a personal thing, but when I talk about the thing all the time, it just makes it worse, because I'm just like reiterating that to my brain. I'm just telling my mind more of the same shit as I'm trying to work through it. So I just make it messier. But when you're like breathing into it, or you're shutting that mind off, like you said, that energy, you're just moving it. Yes, you got to go in, you've found it. So you're bringing something up, that's fine. But you wouldn't have found it with your mind. It wouldn't have made sense the same way. And then you get to move through it, and then it's just gone. It's just like it's gone. It's really that simple.
It's literally water off a duck's back.
Yeah, it's insane.
And I'll use the ducks as the example again. So when ducks fight, right? When any animal really fights, when ducks fight, they'll have their tussle, and they'll walk away, and they'll shake. And that's it. That's their process done. They've had the fight, which gets them into the stress state, the fight or flight, whatever you want to call it. Your sympathetic nervous system's activated, and they're ready to go. Blood's flowing quicker, their muscles are moving quicker. But they've had the fight. The fight's finished, and within seconds, they have regulated their body. They've shut it down. They've calmed down. The heart rate slows. The muscles have relaxed. All from shaking. And they go on like nothing's ever happened. Whereas us, we carry shit around for fucking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. And we don't move on from it. And then, a whole other conversation is that manifests into illness and disease and things like that. So by breathing and just having those little feels, or those big releases, that's our shake. That's us regulating ourselves. And as you know from breathing, when we get to the end, when we come back down, we've had our high, we may have had a big release, or we may have just felt the feels that we needed to feel. But at the end, when we come back down, we just get our bodies nice and relaxed. And, when you go home, you probably have the best sleep you've ever had. You feel so relaxed because you've come back into your body. You've regulated your nervous system. You've come back down, and you're at the state where you should be at every moment in life.
Yeah. Oh. And just with like that healing with, again, like that whole Joe Dispenza thing, it was the same conversation. It was like, once you're regulated, once you're in your heart, when that energy, when that is what you are radiating out, when that is the frequency that you're transmuting through your body, you're healing, right? Some people don't believe that, and that's completely fine. But my second breath work with you, I remember sitting up and I said, and I talked about a lot of things and the card was like so spot on. But I said, I have this orange light that I feel like, and I couldn't make sense of it. But I was like, there's just this orange light that I want to radiate out into the world. And I still feel a little silly saying this, but I'm still like, no, I know that this is part of that damn 5710 channel. And it's like, it's led me to all of these different things. And so I was like, I want it to radiate out, but I feel stuck. Like my whole heart, my chest, everything was tight. And I was like, it doesn't want to come out. I cried a lot. And I was like, and I don't know where to give all of this love I have to give. And it was making me sob, because that night you had to put your hand on my back, and you were like helping me. I was like a baby, and you were like almost like just patting my back. That's how it felt to me. And I was just sobbing, and it was like that guttural, I just remember the feeling. But I also remember this feeling of this orange light and this love. And when I think about it, it's really funny, because my SQ in my human design, and I've literally just put this together now, haven't cried up to this point. It's not going to happen, Brendan.
It will happen.
No, I won't, because now I'm excited, because it's led me back to more synchronicity, so I flipped it. My SQ for me is universal love. Yeah. So what I wanted as a child was just to keep everyone happy, and I wanted to see everybody get along. And what I don't understand, like I just don't understand people being mean. Like I never have. And it makes like, so when someone does something mean to me, I don't understand it. And that sounds really silly, but I'm like, I don't understand why somebody would do something like that, because I can't, I just can't get my head around it. And so the fact that I was feeling like I have all of this love to give, and you were patting my back and you were helping my inner child realize that, hey, I can come and I can still do something with this. And I also remember, we're going to bring up the medicine journey stuff that I never thought I would do, but you were such a safe space. And so then that was fine. And I hate letting go of control. And so that it got to a point where I was ready to let go of control as well. And I remember within that, the same things came up. So it was, you were safe to be seen. It was this orange light again, this warmth. One of my boobs wanted to pop off my chest, and I couldn't explain it. And so to me, when I've like unpacked that, or like as the times rolled on, it came down to my fake boobs were blocking this orange light and my heart and my intuition and this knowing that I have more to give. But until I got rid of that, I couldn't do it. But I also think it had something to do with the healing of my body, because I've had my results back from the implants and stuff now, and there was a lot of inflammation there, and there was actually bacteria. So, you know, it could be all of the things, but if I can't get into my heart, I can't love myself enough. Therefore, how the hell am I going to keep myself free of disease? And anyway, there's so many things there. But the fact that we did that medicine journey, and then things I felt in breath work, and when we took it to another level, that it was that masculine feminine thing. Because I remember watching you, I had no idea what to expect, and I've never done anything in my life. Like I will drink a drink here and there, but that is the extent of it for me. So I researched psilocybin. I was like, oh my God, but still you step into that space worried, especially as a mother. You do. Because again, it's that control. It's that, what if I uncover something and I can't come back from that? Like, I don't know how messed up I am inside. So I don't know. But all that happened was I realized that I always had my own back, but that I was always supported. It was like I would look at you and your face would turn from, I don't think I've told you this, but it kept turning from a little boy into like an adolescent, and then into a man. And it wasn't necessarily you all of the time, but it was this illusion of you sitting beside me. Because obviously you were there keeping me safe the whole time.
Yeah.
But that's what I noticed. But I noticed how I was in that. And it was like, I have all of this love. And I want someone beside me to just uphold that, and so that I can help them. And so then as a kid, I felt what that felt like during it. Then I would feel that when I cried, that I would look away because I didn't want anyone, I didn't want this, whatever version of you that was the person in my head that was my masculine or my support or my whatever, to see me weep or crying or emotional. And then there was moments when I don't even know what's real. You held my hand to take me on the rocks to go swimming.
Yeah.
And I remember my mind going, I can do this myself. There was so many moments of that, like getting down the stairs or putting my togs on, or like, which I obviously did do myself. I just feel like I should clarify that.
Put the disclaimer in there.
The disclaimer is in there. I did all of that myself.
Behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors. Sorry, Brendan. Absolutely. But I remember every one of those moments going, I can do that myself. And then the internal battle going, let them help you.
Yeah.
And what has played out the most since then, and what has eased for me, is I cry without worrying. I allow myself to be seen and softened. I ask people for help, and not just men, like just in general. I'm noticing that I can do that, and when I am, then things are lining up.
Yeah, I love that.
Insane. That was a really long story, but that's what this does.
It does, because everything's frequency and vibration, right? Well, we're on the same level. Like attracts like. So if you're constantly down in the dumps, self-criticizing yourself and fearful and all that sort of stuff, that's just what you're going to call in.
Yeah.
People go, why is my life always like this? Because your thoughts are always like that.
Yeah.
You're going to call it in. On the other side, if you're full of love and if you're full of, as cliche as it is, full of light, that's what you're going to bring in. And when you're on purpose and living your mission and let everything's in alignment, then things just fall into place.
Yeah.
And you said it with love, earlier, when we operate from a place of love, when we're full of love, there's no place for anything else.
Yeah.
There's no place for hate. There's no place for anger. There's no place for fear, distrust, or dislike. Because love, we were made from love. We were born from love. And we will go back there.
Yeah.
This whole earth is just one big representation of love. I was trying to think of the right way to say that then. But you just look at everything in nature.
Yeah.
Like, whatever your beliefs are of how we got here and how things came to be, you cannot look at the world, at the natural world, and go, this got here through hate.
Mm.
There's not a chance.
No way.
We are naturally loving. When we're born, looking at newborn babies, they're just, their eyes, you can see in their eyes, they're just full of love and pureness and innocence. And then they grow up into little kids, and then they go off to school and they just get filled with nonsense, and they get pushed down and dumbed down, told what to learn and how to learn it, when to learn it. And we have this love inside trampled on, and as I said before as well, like we're told as kids to be quiet, don't cry. If you're crying, go to your room. So we're at every which way, we're molded and morphed into something that we're not. We're not kids releasing our emotions as we're meant to. By a kid screaming or crying, that's them shaking like a duck. But we stop that process prematurely. We tell them to be quiet, rather than letting them go for, 5-10 minutes and then them acting like normal afterwards. We suppress and we push down, and then they move into adulthood and they don't know how to feel. They don't know how to express. They hide away, like you just said, they hide away their emotion. They're scared of being seen by others. And I know for me as well, like, I didn't want people to see me cry. I'd go to a funeral, for example, and I'd be there I'd be literally tight-chested, trying to just hold all this emotion in. But now if I was to go to Untouch Wood, it's not for a while, I'd just let it be, because that's my body doing what it needs to do to regulate itself.
Yeah.
And if we can just allow people to feel, they can move past the fear. Allow yourself to be seen. And that's one thing I say in all my sessions. You are seen. You are held. You are heard. This is your space. Take it up. Say what you need to say. Move your body if you need to move it. Scream, shout, laugh, cry. Whatever you need to do it. And I'm here to support you.
And like you were saying, for me, like I was saying, for me as a kid, and if we relate to the human design, but most of us know what it was, what we were like as a kid or what we needed.
Most of our issues come from childhood.
Right. That's where I'm headed. So for me, that universal love, and joy. So I needed to play and kind of be loud. That was who I was.
Mm.
But what I got was, it was the be quiet. Don't express emotion and go hide and you'd be seen and not heard for me. And so whenever that then shows up, that's what I was bringing in anyway, because that's what I was used to. So that's the first part. But then if we look at a man, if they're told that same thing, they don't know, they're not going to know how to then do that for a woman or for anyone else or their kids, because they never got it as a kid. So if you can then, if you're going to take them into one of your retreats and they're going to learn to have all of this love in their heart, are they going to be able to control their emotions? They're going to see what that feels like. They're going to help their own inner child do their thing and do some of that healing. Then they're going to be able to maybe look at their partner, their child, or whatever it is, and see them more for their inner child and go, hold on, my wife's crying right now and she's saying all of these things, but it's not actually what she means, or because that's what we do. And you'll hug her because you'll be able to, because you won't be taking it on, because you won't be scared or angry, because you can't have that fear and anger with the love. So you'll have that love for you and you'll hug her, and then everything will dissipate, or you'll do that for your kid. And so everything just gets better. Fear and anger aren't the opposite of love. They're the separation of it. So,
Well, that's like when, when you do gain these skills, because they're skills, they're insights. Once you have this awareness of stimulus, trigger, and how you react or respond, you can then realize that, hey, if my wife's having a go at me, for example, if she's not having a go at me, it might seem like she's having a go at me, but that's just how I'm interpreting it. That's how I'm taking it. I'm taking her action as a response to me, and then I get hurt, so then I fire back, becomes an argument, we get nowhere. And just having that awareness to just hold space. And for me as a facilitator, that's what I do. I allow you to express what you need to express, feel what you need to feel, and release what you need to release, without judgment, without ridicule, and without going, oh, they're attacking me. No, that's your own process. And then when we can translate that to our relationships with our partners, our kids, even out in the community, it's having that space to go, well, what someone's doing to me now, whether it's my kids arcing up and carrying on, or my missus crying or whatever, or someone cranky in the street, it's not reacting and going, oh, this person cut me off in traffic, and becoming angry and It's just breathe, have the space. And then also that little bit of awareness to go, well, that other person, what's going on for them at the moment? Even with my wife, what's going on for her? I'm not in her head. And same as for her, she's not in mine. So it's just having that space where we can just have a bit of empathy and a bit of compassion for the situation and the other person and where they're coming from and what they're experiencing.
And like you said, you can move through the emotion quicker. So most of the time it's because you've held on to that emotion. So I don't know what's in their head. They don't know what's in mine. If I don't react, I can still have a conversation, And I can still have an emotion, but I'll process it quickly and go, oh, that triggered me. Why did it trigger me? Probably because you have more awareness. Then it doesn't go anywhere. It's just like, but sometimes these triggers are awesome because if you now have these tools, those triggers go, oh shit, what is that showing me that I haven't sorted out yet? And where can I grow? And I think you and I both have that in one of our gates. I can't remember what gate it is, but that it's like it's part of our purpose to almost have that, like keep finding those things to just keep growing. Like we almost want to keep being triggered so that we can keep growing and finding out more about who we are. I know that's actually part of my life's purpose, and then to show other people. So it's really funny.
Like, as the the human race, like I feel that's our greatest thing, to find out who we are. Who we are as individuals, but who we are as a collective.
Yeah.
And I feel with deep breath work and with medicine ceremonies, you certainly come close.
Yeah.
To finding that information out. You certainly find yourself, and you constantly unpeeling off those layers the more you do and the more you go in, because I feel healing's not something that you do and it's done. It's an ever evolving and ongoing process, because I'm 35 now, so I've got 35 years worth of stuff that I can't remember, but my body does. So something that happened to me when I was 10 might not come to me until a breathwork session on July 27th this year, and then I have that moment where I relive that. And I use the word relive because you're not reliving it, but you're just having that experience of that feeling. But I might have that feeling and that emotion come up from all that time ago, and I'd never consciously remembered it, but my body did, and my body was now able to move through it, and it's gone. And of course, you might have a breathwork session and a profound experience, and for some you can have that one session and your life completely changes. But it's an ongoing thing as well. What you uncover today may still be there next week. You're just going deeper and deeper into what that is. And then eventually you will come, that will be healed, that will be gone. But then there's something else. And it's not that and the word healing does get thrown around, and I use it, like it's in my name, the healing breath.
Yeah, no, but I know exactly what you mean, because sometimes you get caught up, I'm trying to heal, but it's not healing because you're not broken. There's nothing,
no,
it's
that's
just
right.
more of it's an understanding.
Exactly right.
You're trying to, you're just understanding.
It's coming whole and coming home.
Yeah.
Coming back to that place of love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you took the words right out of my mouth. You're not broken, so there's nothing to fix. It's just finding yourself, finding that center, and coming back to a place of love.
Yeah. And acceptance. It's acceptance. And I say that for me because I had someone say that to me as well. They were like, just stop trying to find the answers. Just go and do the things now. Like, you know enough. You're not broken.
Yeah.
Just accept that this is who you are, where you are. Now go do the things. And I know that might sound a little bit silly, but it is, because unless you go out and make some mistakes, and I'm not saying like with terrible intent, but if you've got all good intentions and you're showing up as you make a mistake, well, you soon know that, oh, I want to keep going that direction, or I don't want to go that direction anymore.
Yeah.
And then I know how that feels. I'm going to pivot a little bit more over here.
That's it.
To me, it's like that's what kids do. They make a mistake, they learn from it.
That's right.
And then they move on. If we don't let them make mistakes, they learn nothing. So why do we stop ourselves making freaking mistakes?
That's right. Can you imagine your kid? They're just learning to walk. They're just starting to walk. They stand on their feet. They might take one step. They fall down. Imagine if they just gave up there.
Yeah. Or if you were like, well, you're stupid.
Yeah. You'd have this 50-year-old human just like crawling around the ground.
Like Carla. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hello. It's Emily here. You guys may have heard me talk about human design, and will continue to do so throughout my podcast because it's helped me to expand my life using it as a tool along my journey. If you would like to take your first step on a road to less doubt, then download your own free personalized human design chart by clicking on the link in the show notes. Then, as you follow along on socials or the podcast, you'll be able to integrate this and gain more clarity of who you are and remember who you came here to be. Lastly, I'd love for you to join our community of like-minded women inside our free Facebook group. All links are in the show notes. All right, back to the episode.
But, we are meant to fail. We're meant to fall down. We're meant to make mistakes. And I call them lessons. I don't call them mistakes. Because, in every mistake, there is a lesson. Did I do it the right way, the wrong way? Can it be done a better way? Can I say a different thing? And you don't know unless you try.
Absolutely.
When I had the realization that this is what I wanted to do, and this was my purpose, I was lit up, I was excited, but I was also shit scared. Because I never really put myself out there. I just keep to myself, keep to my people, and live my life. My confidence was never sky high. So I'd always just, keep inside and keep things close to my chest. So when I was like, wow, now I'm going to be doing something that's putting me in front of strangers in vulnerable states for them and in vulnerable states for me as well. And, whether it's a room of 2, 1, 10, 50, this is outside of my comfort zone. And I was just like, well, this is what I need. I need to grow. I can't become who I need to be if I'm not growing. And of course, along the way of my, the last sort of 18 months or whatever it's been, I've made subtle mistakes, I guess. Whether it's just the way I've had subtle lessons, where I've done things or tried things and it either hasn't worked or it hasn't worked the way I wanted, or the music didn't hit and, the music just didn't vibe. And it's just like, okay, well, next time we'll do this. Or, that worked, but this part of it didn't, so we'll pivot and we'll try something else. Whereas I could just go, nah, it didn't work. I'm going to turn around and not bother with this. But then where am I?
Yep.
The exact same spot.
We'll go back to the medicine journey for me. And we sat at the end of that, which we alluded to at the start of this. And we were both talking about really not knowing what to say or how to say it, but both talking about the fact that we wanted to start a podcast because I saw your microphone and I kind of laughed and I was like, I want to start a podcast. And you're like, well, that's why that's sitting there. And you remember chatting about that. And I said, why haven't you? And you're like, oh, I just don't really know. And I kind of left there just going, I need to do it, but I don't know how and I don't know why. Yeah. And I got stuck in my head a lot and I still do, but I'm showing up to do it because, again, just recently and almost doing it with you has been a reconfirmation, and I'm not going to get into why that is today, but I'm taking the long way around. But when I was down in Sydney having this explant and sitting there, like you said, these lessons that come up, it was really hard for me because so I put my money into different parts of business. Like I'd said to you, I'd struggled with my worth is wrapped up in earning and doing and being all of these things. But then I got this shock, and in my human design, I have the gate of shock. So it's interesting that I needed this cancer scare in order to finally jump and have this explant, because I probably wouldn't have done it otherwise, because I would have been scared of the money, because then the ego meant I wasn't as successful because I didn't know how to do all these things. So all of this has been coming up for me. And I go down there and I know how much further I am financially, and I sit in that, and I have to sit in that for 2 weeks. I can't do anything. I'm not with my kids. I still have to do these podcasts. Money's coming out for things. And I question, am I doing the right things? And so I've seen the places where maybe I could have done things differently. But if I really sit with the intuition and I sit with our conversation and I look at now other conversations that have happened once I finally let that go, and I cried a lot down there. It just was coming out. Someone would be really nice to me. One of these beautiful Chinese men started massaging my back for like 3 seconds, and I started crying because it was this kindness that I was like, oh, it's bringing on a release. But I've realized that now I can actually see So that 5710 channel again, this logical, but it's from the intuition, how everything is going to actually all come full circle, but I've just had to let go of how it's going to happen. So while I'm shit scared because I'm behind in one area and I don't know how to fix this part, there's so many other parts that I think are now all aligning to turn into somewhere where they were actually supposed to go. But if I didn't take my head and I didn't take myself out of it and it didn't get to this point, nothing could have shifted in order for me to get to there anyway. Like I actually had to get to this level of low in one area in order to notice the level of shame I had around a certain thing, for that to come out and for me to process it. And so I had to give myself the time. And I guess that's just a long way to say the same sort of thing you did. We don't know, and we don't know what the lesson's going to be, and it's going to be hard. But if you keep stepping into it and you keep really looking within, pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. Well, you can come and do breathwork, and you can do it once. You can have the experience, and you can go away and never do it again. But you've just had an experience. You've just done something for an hour, 2 hours, or whatever. But for those that, are serious, they're the ones that make it a practice. They're the ones that either come to me every week or whatever, or every other week, or they're doing stuff at home on their own, and they know that it's an ongoing journey. Yeah, it takes time. It's like anything, when you go to the gym, you lift a certain weight and it becomes easy, so you got to go up. You don't just start, squatting 100 kilos and you've never been to a gym before. Or you don't go to a gym once and go, right, I'm ripped. It takes time, it takes effort. And by constantly stepping in and stepping up, the change compounds. Like, you might not realize things are happening, but over the course of 12 months, you look back, I look back, and I just see the growth, the change, and you'll see it too. It's like all of those little 1%ers along the way have made significant change. And it's almost like you see these people that become overnight successes. No overnight success and overnight success. There's been 10 years of work in the background. That's like our healing journey. You might suddenly have this big smile on your face and you walk around with your head up and you go, oh, you've changed overnight. But it's like, well, I've had 12 months, 3, 4, 6 years of working on myself to get here. I think that's with men too. Like we expect quick fixes. And from my experience, like with what I've witnessed in others, is that if the going starts to get a bit hard, they give up. Because whatever's going on inside, they either don't know how to deal with it, or they don't want to deal with it, and they just want to keep going on. But you got to push through. Find comfort in the discomfort. Because the rewards that will come from pushing through and doing the hard work will be a life that you may have only dreamed of.
And that's a discipline thing too. Everyone wants immediate things. They want motivation to do things. You don't get motivated to do things. You get excited to do things. That's fine. But some of the harder stuff doesn't come with motivation. It comes with that discipline. And I think also not looking to everybody else. So like sometimes, like I can look to you and the things you're doing, and you're going to reflect things back to me that I want for myself. So that's also a great thing, because it's showing me where maybe I'm lacking things in my life that I want for me. That's an okay thing. But the other side of that is, if you keep looking to everybody else, you assume they have all of these things together, but they gotta work out other parts of the puzzle. So like for me, when it's like everyone's logical and smart and they can articulate their sentences really well, and they can have rebuttals really quickly, and like, they're smart. That's my version of smart, but that's not how I work, and that's okay. It doesn't make me any less smart. I just have other qualities. And so if I'm always looking at that other person, I'm like, they have everything I don't have.
Yeah. And that's
I think that's
where
a big one.
And that's where we see, that's where the mirror comes in, the reflection comes.
Exactly.
They're either reflecting back the things that we feel we're lacking in, or that we're seeing things in them that we wish we saw in ourselves.
Or that is inside ourselves. It's actually
We just
there.
haven't found
We're
it,
just
yeah.
not allowed it to come out yet.
Yeah.
It's literally
And one thing I love about our circles, whether it's online, in person, men, women, both, whatever, it's that when we share and we talk like we're talking now, but in that space where we've just had experiences and we're talking real talk, we get to connect. And we get to realize that the problems you're going through, I may have already gone through them. I may be going through them. And just by you sharing whatever your experience was or whatever it is that you share, that could be the catalyst for me to go, fuck, that's what I needed to do. Or this is the direction I need to take. And as you go, and even for me, sitting there, I listen to everyone's stories and I resonate with so much. And I'm sure everyone that listens to everyone else resonates so much. Yeah. And I learn so much. I take away so much for myself. Because it's not just you guys that are having the experience and the journey and the healing. Each session is an invitation for myself. Whether that's just allowing my flow in creating the music. That's me expressing myself in the music that's created for that event. Sitting there and listening to the shares and, feeling and empathizing with the people because I've either experienced it or I just know what they're going through or feel what they're going through. But sharing and coming together, and especially as men, because all we seem to do is talk about the weather, the sport, and what women we've been with. And there's only so much of that you can talk about in a pub session, But when we come together like this as men, we can really talk. We can really go, hey, brother, what's happening? Where are you at? And I guarantee you, the blokes I used to hang around with, if I asked them that question, how are you really feeling? What's Brendan like in here? They tell me to get fucked. Oh, fuck off, mate. Because they don't have that awareness or that capacity. And that's not anything against them or any disrespect or anything. We only know what we know, and we only operate from the level of consciousness that we're at. Me 10 years ago is completely different to now. Me 2 years ago is completely different to now. I am so much more aware of myself and the world and, how the unseen works. That if you had have asked me these things 2 years ago, I'd be like, no. But when we can come together as men and we can share as men, we realize that it's not just about booze, women, sport and drugs and all that sort of stuff. It's about family. It's about stepping up and being a role model, not just for whether it's our sons, our daughters, but the community as a whole. Like, we are so disconnected from community. Like, we live on our screens, we work over here, we live over here. We are so disconnected from community and from that village way of life that we forget how to connect. You've got husband and wives that sit on the same lounge in the same house, but they are so disconnected from each other because they're too busy seeing what bloody Mary had for dinner.
Yeah, but they don't have any time to connect, Brendan.
That's right. Yeah, they don't have any time. They've just spent 6 hours and 20 Netflix episodes or something.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, that pretty much sums this whole podcast up. It sums up exactly why you and I love doing what we do. And it doesn't matter how you're bringing that into the world. I think that's just the importance of it. And I know I stepped into the podcast because I love conversations and I wanted them to be like, I have my human design notes because I wanted to get a little nerdy on that because it was fun. But there's no questions. That's why it kind of just goes where it goes, because I want it to just be a conversation to see what happens. Yeah. Because I know in my tattoo space, it's the same thing. Women will open up to each other over the day they've had, what's happening in their marriage, what's happening with their kids, And same thing, they feel seen, they don't feel alone. They're like, oh, that feeling I have, I don't feel guilty that I took myself away for a minute. I sat in the car for 5 minutes before I walked inside, or I went and finally did something for me. You know, those sorts of things. And then it's, oh, well, have you thought about? And then you're helping them in some way. Just like you said, it's that little catalyst, it's a little thing, or they'll say something and you go, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. And that's what I'm finding. And then the more you start doing that, you end up in more situations where, and what I've found is like pulling in those right people, doing the things like the paragliding or going into these places. These people are so much more than lit up by life. So the conversations change. And I just find myself going, oh, this is what I've been missing. This is what I've been trying to find. And I'm sure you're the same, because I remember I was sitting around, we're at the Rainbow Beach surf club, and the football finals were playing, and I was with a group of 4 men and another lady. I just met these people, like literally just met them. It was a tandem. Sitting there, all eating, everyone screaming at the TV. And when that was like, this group just like went quiet for a second. We're like, what are they doing? And then went back to talking about like life and wonder and just, and I remember just going, oh my God, I wasn't crazy for not wanting to be part of the football. I wasn't crazy for not wanting to talk about these things. Finally, this Emily that I'm starting to want to bring out that wants to talk about breathwork, meditation, mushrooms, adventure, fun, travel, life. I'm finding the people, and then your life is so much richer for it. So, including having you in it, and I can't wait to do my next breathwork. So, can you tell people where they can find you to do in person, where they can connect with you for anything? Just tell them all of the things.
Yeah, so you can connect with me on Instagram, The Healing Breaths, with underscores between each word. I'm sure you might put something in show notes or something like that. Sweet. So you can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, my website. But as I said before, I provide in-person and online sessions, so that can just be like just purely breath work, or we have like programmed like mentoring sessions where it's breath work is incorporated, but more, planning and putting things into practice and getting forward momentum. And I have a bit of a unique lifestyle too. So we live in a caravan, we travel around, we've been traveling for almost 3 years. So at the moment, I'm based in Hervey Bay. And you can. So at the moment, I'm based in Hervey Bay. So if you're in Hervey Bay, just hit me up. I've got a studio down at the marina. I also utilize the community center for larger groups. But living in a caravan too also means I'm mobile. So as I do travel around the country and the world, I could be coming to your town, your city, or somewhere close by. So, keep an eye on the socials to see where I'm at, because my plan for 2024 and beyond is to almost have like the Healing Breath Roadshow. Take it on the road as I go. Not just be limited geographically to one spot, and not just be purely online, but have, access as I move around. So as I travel around, I get to provide this wherever I am. It could be at a caravan park, could be at a beach, could be somewhere, wherever. But yeah.
That's so exciting. And I mean, I haven't known you for very long. It's been, I don't know, maybe 4 months, maybe 5?
No, it's been at least probably close to 12. Yeah, maybe like, because if it was doing sunrise after.
No, because it was, I'm pretty sure it was the last beach. Whenever you did the last beach session was when I ran into Joy, and then it switched. So it must have just been the weather got too cold and you started doing inside. So whenever that was is when I found you.
Yeah, right. Well, it was at least 6 months probably.
Yeah. But even in that time, the change I witness in you and just you stepping into you is huge. So I'm excited to follow you doing more of you, as well as come and enjoy what you have to offer. So thank you. And thank you for chatting today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Like, I just want to say, like, you mentioned something just briefly before, and like me talking, I love this. In the past, I never knew I did. I didn't really like to talk, wasn't around the right people. wasn't having the right conversations. But get me with the right person, the right people, the right conversation, and good luck trying to shut me up.
100%. We did say this is going to go for a couple of hours. We've done an hour and a half. Pretty sure that's the longest one yet. So yay for us.
Hey, time flies when you're having fun. And
yes. Thank you so much, Brendan. Loved it.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. Thank you.
See ya.
See you later.